welcome. This is your Wish Upon a Star Lunar Horoscope for Saturday, July 24th, 2021. Luna will be voyaging through the sign of Aquarius, the water bearer, and that's going to bring self-governance, rarity, philanthropy, also sophistication and enjoyment, as well as sort of a vivacious enthusiasm to go along with it. Now, the full buck moon occurs while transiting through the 24th mansion of the moon. And that's going to happen at 2:37 a.m. We're using Universal Time Coordinated, and we're using tropical astrology. Luna's activation of lunar mansion number 24 during a full moon at 100% light is potent for completing projective magic rituals and then beginning plans, starting your plans for receptive magic spells. Mansion of the moon number 24 is in effect from early in the evening on July 23rd at 5:02 p.m. until the afternoon of the next day, July 24th at 2:36 p.m. With the full moon occurring in Aquarius at 2:37 a.m., lunar mansion number 24 is magically activated at the exact time of the full buck moon in the sign of Aquarius, the water bearer. I'm Pastor Rosemary, the Astrology Angel. I'm a Rosicrucian seer, biblical astrologer, Christian psychic, and Gnostic mystic. And this is a Readings by Rosemary angelic transmission. Now, Luna will be transiting through Capricorn, and the margins of that are 25 degrees, 42 minutes, 51 seconds, to Aquarius, 8 degrees, 34 minutes, 17 seconds, and those parameters are according to Abraham. The star to wish upon inside the 24th mansion of the moon, named Sadalsuud, is named Sadalsuud, so it has a similar name, that resides in the area between the tail of Capricorn and the shoulder of Aquarius, being the luckiest of the lucky. And this is according to Christopher Warnock. Now, ask the angel of Beta Aquarii, who is named Abrinael, to better grow your multitude. The image of a woman breastfeeding her child protects and causes groups to swell and expand. This image is made potent if the picture is placed upon a talisman or upon an amulet and then hung around the neck of one in the collective. Ancient peoples used to use the horn of a wether or a steer to fashion this type of talisman and then hung it around the neck of one of the sheep or the bulls that were still able to mate. Sorceresses and sorcerers create representation of the multiplication of wares, also obtaining the yield thereof, and happiness for married couples. Magicians also used Sadalsuud to form renderings depicting that they receive messages about conquest over rivals, also to annihilate the riches of friends and colleagues, as well as to thwart such associates from gathering with powerful people. So these kind of talismans would be used actually in a clandestine manner to thwart or the success of your friends and your colleagues, but also to receive messages that you had conquest or triumphed over your enemies. So those two things. Now, Agrippa discloses that other names used for lunar mansion number 24, that he says those names are Sadabath or Chadizoad, meaning star of fortune. Agrippa reveals that other renderings used for magical purposes during mansion of the moon number 24 is for armed forces to obtain conquest in their pursuits, as well as to halt the workings and the implementations of governmental movements and completion of tasks. So again, this was Agrippa to thwart the governmental pursuits or the armed forces, or to thwart the military, impede them, and to halt the workings and implementations of the government and the completion of their tasks. So this is something that Agrippa said that it was also used for. Now, according to Kabbalistic lore, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, while Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Capricorn birthstone is garnet, with Aquarius birthstone being amethyst. rosaries, and amulets using amethyst for Aquarius are magically potent for this praxis. Amethyst is just beautiful. Now, Kabbalistic and alchemical planetary associations, in this instance, for lunar, for the full moon in this lunar mansion, the full moon is going to be transiting through 24, and the full buck moon, for this full buck moon in Aquarius, and some of the associations that you can use during this transit for lunar mansion number 24 during the full moon. You could use different kinds of perfumes or essential oils or herbs or flowers, as well as various colors that are associated with Aquarius, the water bear. And we're giving you here the gemstones and the metals for those that like to make amulets, rosaries, and magical jewelry, necklaces and bracelets, that kind of thing, and rings. Okay. Now, the planetary alchemical metal in this case would indicate lead for Saturn. The warning: lead is toxic, and the absorption or the ingestion of this metal can cause lead poisoning. Therefore, lead is neither workable nor is it realistic for this operation by common persons. Lead should only be handled by those that possess the knowledge and the skill to do so. Agrippa also mentions that for Mansion of the Moon number 24, the ancients traditionally used a seal which was heated up so that the image of a woman breastfeeding the child could be branded into the horn of the sacrificed unfertile creature before it was hung around the neck of the elected fertile beast. In this way, the magic that ensued was to cause the herd to enlarge and thus make the herdsman rich. So you could use this image of a woman breastfeeding her child to make your groups swell. One might think that there are some religions that use the image of a woman breastfeeding and grow the numbers of their religion. Think about it. It's important to note here that according to Vivian Irwood Robson, author of the book The Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, the Greek astronomer Ptolemy gives the precise planetary attributes of Saturn and Jupiter to the stars, which are located specifically in the tail of the goat, such as the star Deneb Algeti or Algeti. Now, Ptolemy also mentions that the stars located in the shoulders of Aquarius are attributed to the planets of Saturn and Mercury in regards to the planetary nature of this area of the constellation of Aquarius. Most of the planetary natures include the planet Saturn, which is traditionally assigned by Kabbalists to the constellations of both Capricorn and Aquarius. Since Saturn's alchemical metal of lead is toxic, as we have already mentioned, even if you handle it, or if you inhale it. Since we've talked to you about this, it's not really appropriate to use lead for what we're talking about here. We're talking about using the metal of lead to work, and you could get it, it could absorb to your skin. It could cause lead poisoning. So since that's not really practical because of the toxicity, for most jewelers that are making rosary chains or jewelry or amulet bases or other, we need to look at other metals that we could use and work with for Mansion of the Moon number 24. And we can find other metals that we can work with and that aren't toxic. Now, since the Mansion of the Moon will be transiting through Aquarius, when becoming full at 100% right during this particular cycle, we're talking about this particular full buck moon in Aquarius. Since this mansion has both some parameters in the margins of Capricorn and in Aquarius, this full buck moon is in Aquarius. So since we're talking about that for this lunar cycle, the stars found in the shoulders of Aquarius have significant value for alchemical associations. For this reason, a metal which can be said to be magically potent for Aquarius' shoulders would be both, unfortunately, lead for Saturn and, unfortunately, quicksilver associated with Mercury. Because we've already discussed the ruinous health consequences inherent in working with Saturnian lead, and alas, working with mercurial quicksilver is also impractical for our purposes of fashioning rosaries, amulets, and magical jewelry. Because again, warning is that quicksilver or mercury is liquid at room temperature, and in addition, quicksilver is toxic. And the absorption or the ingestion of this metal can cause mercury poisoning. Therefore, quicksilver or mercury is neither realistic nor workable for this operation by common persons. Quicksilver should only be used, and lead should only be used by those that possess the knowledge and the skill and the license to do so. So they're not practical here for our purposes. Okay? Now, one could, if they wanted to, take a look at iron, or because it's associated with Mars, which is used for the practical exploit of being heated for the purpose of branding the horn, more than for any planetary association. So the only thing Agrippa gives us is that they're using iron to brand the horn, okay? You know, an iron brand. We could use that, however, that's not really associated with this mansion. It's not really given to us by Ptolemy as something we could use. It's just one possibility, but we got to understand that, you know, Mars is going to give you a competitive or martial, warlike kind of application. So what else could we look at? You know, what could we look at here? One really might want to avoid actually using the Mars, you know, because of the warlike nature of it. You know, it doesn't really go with a mother breastfeeding her child, you know. If you're going to use some of the other, you know, things, you know, it's fine, but not for the mother breastfeeding. It's not, and for swelling your group, it's not going to work. You know, just have martial energy for, you know, swell your group. That doesn't work. You have to have, you know, a mother breastfeeding your child, have bestowing energy if you want your group to swell. Okay, you know, rather than being the baby receiving, you want to be the mother bestowing. That's what causes things to really, you know, swell. Now, we could also suggest to use a substance similar to the horn of a sheep, goat, bovine, or other such cattle livestock, as recommended by Agrippa, to fashion talismans, although it would be difficult to make a rosary chain out of this material, you know, obviously, you know. With that said, when the moon is transiting through the earlier portions of the lunar mansion of Sadalsuud, being located in Capricorn's tail rather than in the shoulders of Aquarius, then Jupiter's alchemical metal of tin would be both realistic and workable choice to create rosary chains, amulet bezels, or jewelry settings to which one could affix the garnets of Capricorn rather than the amethyst of Aquarius. Now, Jupiter's tin has generous, outgoing, merciful, bountiful, insightful, and charitable attributes, which are well suited to magical associations for being considered the luckiest of the lucky when lunar transits through mansion of the moon Sadalsuud. So even though Jupiter's not mentioned as an Aquarian nature for the, you know, the stars located, you know, although it's not part of the Aquarian nature, again, for the mother and the child, this bestowing, the Jupiterian nature has a very giving nature, a very maternal giving nature for the mother and child. And the swelling of something, and the making something like a herd swell or a group swell, you know, and the giving of the mother's milk. So if you want it, so Jupiter really, even though it's for this, you know, mansion, because it's in the tail of the goat. Okay, so you really could use that and do well with it to make this image, or to use tin and amethyst for Aquarius when the moon is in this mansion in Aquarius, and when the moon's in Capricorn in this mansion, you could use tin as well, and then you could use garnet for the bead. You could make a rosary chain you could use for this mansion when the moon is in Capricorn, and you can make that rosary out of, or amulet or jewelry out of tin and garnet for Capricorn. Or when the moon's in the mansion in Aquarius, you could use the beads or the gemstones for the rosaries, or for the amulets, for the jewelry, for being amethyst, and use tin for the metal, for the rosary chain, the amulet base, the jewelry setting. Or you could use, you know, that kind of a or the amulet bezel. Okay, you could use it for the base of the amulet, and we use amethyst for when the moon is in Aquarius, like this full moon, this full buck moon in Aquarius. Using that beautiful amethyst would make lovely rosaries, beautiful rosaries, or very, very beautiful, very lovely jewelry to use also. Very rich looking jewelry. You could use it for Sadalsuud, the luckiest of the lucky. Other Kabbalistic correspondences for lunar mansion number 24 are as follows. We have moon in Aquarius. Luna gives the water bearer a worldly quality, as well as altruism, sovereignty, and exceptionality. The water bearer is also the life of the party at any gathering and is therefore a delight to have around. Now, planetary archangel for Luna or the moon is Gabriel. God is my strength, power of God, and a messenger of God. Zodiac angel for Aquarius is Cambriel, whose divine tone is I know. Cambriel. Tarot card for Luna or the moon is the High Priestess. The High Priestess sits between the pillars of Joachim and Boaz. She has, that's the temple, the holy temple in Jerusalem, with the crescent moon at her feet, with the knowledge of God, the waters of God consciousness flowing over her and into the crescent moon. She sits with the Torah scroll in her arms. She has a cross on her chest. She has the crown, the triple crown goddess upon her head, the triple moon goddess upon her head, and she has the pentagrams. The pomegranates behind her. Okay. We don't have pentagrams in this card, I don't believe. They are in some cards, not in this card. And this card is associated with the Hebrew letter Gimel, and it means camel. It's the path to the higher self. And if you go to Psalm 119 and you look up the Aleph Beth Gimel, not in all Bibles, but in most Bibles, Aleph Beth Gimel is associated with this card, and it's associated with Psalm 119 under the letter Gimel, this card, and with the moon. So those are the associations where the card is the tarot card, the image, the picture, the symbol is the key, and the Bible, the text, the Torah is the lock. You unlock it with the image and the symbol. Now the healing musical note in the ancient Western array for the moon or Luna to go with the High Priestess card is, this is F, and this is the tone. The healing tone for the moon and for the High Priestess. Now the tarot card for Aquarius, the water bearer, is the star card. So we have the star card here. We have the 8-pointed star, many 8-pointed stars around her. And we have her with 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the land, pouring water in the water and pouring one of the water jugs onto the land. There's a bird sitting in a tree behind her, the star card, and we have the mound of creation behind her. That's the angel, the star card. And we have, and that's for Aquarius, and the musical note in the ancient Western array for Aquarius, the water bearer, is A. And it's the musical note, this tuning fork is A. We'll play that for you now. All right. Now the information that is found in the document that's attached in the description box, you click on the link there, and it'll take you to a blog where you can find how these words are spelled, and you can also get the page number to the books we're going to give you in a moment. Here are reference books that we like to recommend, and also the information in this video that we're presenting to you is based on the oral tradition known as Kabbalah, taught to me by Rosicrucian clergy when I was but a young girl, the facts of which I've committed to memory. Now also, much of the information about star magic was also taught to me through an adjacent German pagan coven, which had established satellite covens around the world. I was in an American coven. I began writing a book based upon these extremely important teachings in 1988, which I've entitled to be my Star Magic Grimoire, which I'm sharing with you now. And the reference books and source books you might want to utilize if you want to learn about this is must-have books. Number 1, Mansions of the Moon, A Lunar Zodiac for Astrology and Magic, 2nd edition, with 2019 to 2033 Mansion Ephemeris, written by Christopher Warnock in 2019, illustrated by Nigel Jackson in 2019, published by Renaissance Astrology 2019. And the second book is 3 Books of Occult Philosophy, Llewellyn Source Book Series, authored by Henry Cornelius Agrippa of Nedisham in 1533, translated by James Freak in 1650, and edited and annotated by Donald Tyson in 1993. A wonderful author. I have many of his books. I have one called Tetragrammaton that he wrote and authored, and one called, I begin to believe, The New Magus, where he talks about using Mercury as your center instead of the sun as a form of magic that you can create, that he created, that you can read about. It's a really fascinating book. Donald Tyson, a wonderful author. And this book, where he edited and annotated Agrippa's work, The 3 Books of Occult Philosophy, was published in 2000 by Llewellyn Publications. We have also the third recommendation for you for a book, a must-have book. Another one is The Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, authored by Vivian E. Robson, Bachelor of Science in 1923, published by American Federation of Astrologers, Inc., cover design by Jack Coppola. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again.